What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Morning Brew podcast. I'm going to start today's episode with a story. In 2014, I went to VidCon to see my favorite filmmaker. For those of you that don't know, that is a convention for YouTubers that was really big back in 2013. I went to go see my favorite filmmaker, someone who inspired me to continue to tell stories and at the time make films. Last week, 10 years later, I got to interview him. A Belgian and English filmmaker now currently based in Los Angeles. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Timothy Hautekiet to the podcast.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. No, happy to chat. Remind me, so we'd spoken a couple of years ago. I think I'd found some old emails or whatever, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. It's, by hot minute, I mean 10 years.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. So
but
we're
yeah.
supposed to be in LA then, right.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to talk to you about films, but I wanted to kind of start by getting to know you a little better. So
Sure.
You're currently living in LA, but tell me a little bit more about where you grew up.
Sure. Growing up, I split my time between England and Belgium. My mum's English, my father's Belgian, and we sort of moved around between those two countries quite a bit, different stages. I know that, for instance, for a period of time during my primary school days, I was in the UK, but then all of high school, I was basically in Belgium. And then for university, I was in London, so it was sort of, basically one or the other. And then we would always visit because we had family in both places. So a very sort of European childhood, I suppose. And then that was in 2014 is when I moved to the States. So.
Okay, that's so cool. Did you enjoy moving around so much?
Yeah, I think so. I think what's interesting is that I reflect on this from time to time, especially getting to this age. I sort of start to think about how that was sort of normal to me. Sort of the moving around and the having friends in different places, family in different places. And I think if you'd asked me when I was growing up, I think I might have answered this differently, because I think there was this sort of perpetual outsider thing that comes with that, when you're
For sure.
when you were living in Belgium, you would be the English kid, and then if you were if you're in England, you were the Belgian kid, because people have a tendency to label you or be interested in the part that is foreign. Doesn't make any sense,
right? Yeah.
An English person isn't going to be like, oh, you're English, just like me. They're going to be curious about the Belgian element, and then so as a result you very quickly get sort of unintentionally othered, and people aren't being mean when they do it. It's just but I think as a kid, when all you want is to be like I just want to be part of
Right. Yeah.
And that's not to say that I was bullied for it or anything, you know what I mean, but it's that sort of quiet in your head kind of thing, but then you get a little older and you grow up and you go and I do think I think it taught me a lot, because again, we're talking about two European countries that are only separated by a small body of water, you know what I mean? It's two different flavors of vanilla. It's not exactly different parts of the world.
Right.
But I think it taught me a lot about stuff like that, and it taught me a lot about even in that small distance, subtle cultural differences and ways in which they're the same, but ways in which they're different. And I think, I think with distance, I think it was a good way to grow up, because it sort of, I think I learned a lot from having to from having that perspective. So yeah,
Yeah, that's so cool. Do you have a favorite memory from back home?
Ooh, a favorite memory of all time? Hard to say. I mean, if reflecting on an entire life, but no, I think I couldn't probably point to one specific thing, but I could certainly sort of more broadly, I remember my time in London very fondly, first moving to London, because I think that was also sort of right around the time that a lot of the like, really starting to dive headfirst into like the YouTube thing and then finding that community. It was also when I sort of more consciously realized I wanted to pursue film. So that was sort of a lot of, I really did fall in love with the city. Like, I think London is still, to date, even though I've been in LA for coming up on 10 years now, I think London is still still has my heart for like my favorite city. So, yeah. I don't know, that period, like, because it was also new, it was all like exciting and, that sort of
totally.
kind of university era of like moving, oh my God. Because I suppose tied in with this, I'd lived primarily in the countryside before then. So I remember the first
okay.
I moved to
you
a
went
big
to
city.
the city. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've been a city boy ever since, really. Like, I not that I couldn't see myself ever going back or anything, but that was definitely like, that was a marked transition for sure.
Okay. That kind of leads into the next question. So you completed your MFA at USC. Congrats.
Yeah.
What inspired you to pursue a master's, and what drew you to LA?
Yeah, it's actually funny because, there's always this funny thing that when you look back, things seem sort of inevitable, or that's just the way the story went. But so you sort of take it as just like, gospel, like that's the rule, that's how it was always going to be. But the truth is that I wasn't sure I was going to move to the States in any particular, like, I knew I liked Hollywood films, and a lot of the like early films that I grew up watching were sort of, made in America, by a lot of American filmmakers. So in some sense, that makes sense that I was sort of drawn to that. But, at the time, moving from what was then the Belgian countryside to London, that felt huge. Like, I wasn't necessarily thinking this is a step towards Hollywood. It was like London felt like the thing. And, it was actually a professor. So I studied my undergrad in film studies, which was more like theoretical. It was more like sort of the history of film, and you would like talk about films in their historical contexts, and you would sort of, it was more like academic, appreciating the history. And then I was doing my production stuff sort of on the side. Like, honestly, that's kind of where the YouTube stuff came in. Like, that was my way to be like making stuff. But my first degree in film was much more history focused. But then there was a professor, we had one class that was a production class, and that professor said, you strike me as somebody who really does want to kind of, go into the like making films side. So he sort of presented me what was then and they do it every year, they still do it, the Hollywood Reporter's list of top 25 film schools. And he basically said, you should really consider like, USC, you should consider in the one in the UK, we have the National School of Film and Television. Like, he basically sort of looked at that list and said, these are sort of some of the most renowned film schools, and you strike me as somebody who should consider this at least, or should maybe try and consider if you wanted to go in that direction. And so, USC was the top film school. Subsequently, the American Film Institute have overtaken us, but, at the time, it was number one.
Yeah.
And I applied to a couple of film schools, and within USC, I considered the Peter Stark producing program felt interesting to me, because it had such an emphasis on, rather than just how do you make a film, meaning we're going to teach you how lighting works and that kind of thing, like the USC Peter Stark producing program had this like emphasis on how do you get films made, which I thought was like an interesting way to phrase it. Like, it was sort of less about, it was like, we're going to teach you like everything that goes into making a film, not just like once you're on set, what you do.
Okay.
And I remember applying, but not necessarily thinking, it was like we'll see if I get in, and then I'll decide if I'll go, and then when like sort of to my surprise, when I got the call, that was like a moment of realizing, like, I guess I'm gonna move to the States.
I guess
like,
we're doing this.
And it felt. It's also worth noting that one of the things I liked about it, doing it this way, was I knew that, let's say I moved and I didn't fit in LA, or it didn't really, like, there was like the fact that I was going for a degree felt helpful, because then it's like, worst case, I get the degree, and then I can come back if I don't, if I don't find myself feeling at home in the city, or something happens or anything like that. But then, enough stuff kept happening that I have stuck around. So yeah, like I think long-winded answer, but yeah, like it was very much like every step of the way, just kind of looking at what opportunities were out there, and then it sort of things happened to line up, and as a result, I'm here.
Oh, that's great. Well, I grew up in Northern California, and so I'm just curious for your perspective coming in later. Is Hollywood everything they make it out to be in film, in your opinion?
Well, yeah. Well, it depends. It depends, isn't it? Because films, I feel like different films portray Hollywood very differently. There's the LA of La La Land, and there's the LA of Mulholland Drive, or like the very. And in some sense, I think both are true. I'd almost be curious for your perspective as a California native, that like, like America more broadly, but I certainly feel like you see it in LA. It's like it's sort of all the good and all the bad at the same time.
I agree.
I mean?
Yeah, it's very romanticized almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you sort of still see, like there are many things that I've come to love and appreciate about this country, with time, and you also understand it more deeply when you actually live here. Like, the sort of, again, I know this is simultaneously like the romanticized conversation would be like, oh, it's a melting pot, and it truly is. Like people from so many different cultures and perspectives, and kind of because the founding idea of this country is supposed to be that like we're united by a set of principles, but people can have different, and all of that's kind of true, right? But at the same time, that also means there's lots of tension all the time, and there's lots of and there's a sort of chaos to sort of governing this this country that and I think LA, it's funny because it's truly the sort of, it's the glam of Hollywood, but also we've got a big we've got lots of like societal like issues, and like ranging from like the homelessness crisis, and all that's real, and it's all true, like, and it's sort of they're true. Oh yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, other than just it's like I think wrapping your head around it. It's like it's wrapping your head around the contradiction.
No, absolutely. It's still kind of held on a pedestal almost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's and it still has managed to you kind of, and maybe with the sort of the digital revolution or whatever, that like that it was gonna maybe LA's not exclusively going to be the center of all entertainment anymore, but it still has kind of held on to its role, I guess. Like at least a lot of the decisions get made in LA.
Yeah,
so it's interesting. Yeah,
definitely. So now that we're kind of segueing towards film, let's talk a little bit about your YouTube career. So tell me a little bit about when and why you initially joined YouTube.
Yeah. Well, honestly, the answer to that would probably be that while I was still in high school, YouTube was sort of this, we were just making like fan films and these kind of, and YouTube just happened to be a thing that was there, like that you then realize, oh wait, I can upload this silly thing I made with my friends, or this sort of stop motion thing I made, and I can put it online and have my own little like page with all the, like that was all like that. It was very like sort of, because you didn't realize that other people were going to be able to see it. It was just like, oh, I'll have it up there and then I can maybe share it with my friends or whatever. But you didn't sort of like all of the things that YouTube is now. You didn't know then. It was a very sort of like innocent thing. As if you were like, oh, I guess I'll just upload myself and put have my own little like TV channel basically. Right. So it was very much stumbled into it. I just happened to be somebody who liked watching films, liked trying to make their own things, and then found myself sort of uploading it. And then after a while, you began to realize that you were building something of a that people other than your friends and family were watching it, and you were realizing that you were sort of starting to build that like social element of like, because early YouTube stuff was quite social. It was like, if somebody commented on your video, sub for sub, and then you watch other stuff, and, all of that. Like, that was, it was all very like, that's kind of where community was. Like, you and the other weirdos and outcasts who put their videos on the internet. Like, that's you'd sort of found each other, and then. Yeah, it certainly wasn't until uni when I started like gaining more numbers because I was starting to bump into people who were doing it, and we were collaborating and making that kind of stuff. But it was also then that I started taking it more seriously. Like, I remember in my first year of uni is when I set myself the goal that I was going to make something every week, no matter what. Like, it was going to be scheduled. And they were like, my thinking was they might not be good, but at least the regularity will help, like, force me to put stuff out. And then and then sort of that's when it sort of started to take off more. But yeah, it was a very almost like, subconscious thing. Like, there was not like a moment of like, I want to be a YouTuber.
Right.
It's
I gotcha. Okay, so I feel like, and correct me if this is wrong, but I feel like you kind of were in the middle of what I refer to as like the golden age of YouTube. Like 2013, creating content alongside other people like Tomska, Ben Cook, Jack Howard. So when collaborating on content like that, were you all joined by similar interests, or did you know each other beforehand?
Yeah, I think every person you just mentioned there, I did meet by doing YouTube, like, including, for instance, Jack and I. The way we became friends, I was like using this example because it so perfectly dates the era, but we were both making like Spider-Man fan trailers. And Jack reached out to me and said, hey, where did you get that song? And then I said, oh, you can add me on MSN. And then we reached out. So, it's very much, that's very much the era. But then through Jack, who went to University of Lincoln, which is where he met Tom Scar. So it was then through Jack that I met Tom. And then Ben Cook, I think, must have been at like in the Circle YouTube gathering. There was a pub in London where a lot of people, because the RH Experience were these like improv comedians who used to make stuff, and then a lot of people who sort of were then in the sort of early YouTube scene were there, and so you would sort of meet lots of people there. It certainly was kind of, it was this combination of like unity and just social, because you're all like young 18 to 20 somethings moving into a city, and like you're finding the other people who are kind of into the same things you are. And then to your point, there are, that community was very broad, so you'd have everybody from like, hey, I make little stop motions, I'm a musician, and then you would sort of find the people who are more interested in film specifically to collaborate with. But at the same time, everyone was kind of in everybody's stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that was again, kind of those days. Like, back in those days, I was still making like blogs and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I knew I wanted to make films, but you can't make a film every day. So like everyone's kind of doing a bit of everything. Like, I always find it funny. Dodie's obviously gone on and become like an amazing singer, and she's got a band, and they're doing all these tours, and like she's still like really killed it as a musician. But if you go back to like my early like YouTube stuff, like she's in them as like an actor. She's like in Bad Burglars and all these like old things I made as like because she was my friend and she was doing stuff. And she could act, so great. Like, it was very like the rules were so loose.
Right, it's so cool to see like what everyone is doing now. Like, even Carrie Fletcher is like doing like all these big shows, and I think she has like a tea shop or something. Like, that's super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you're based in like more northern California. You guys were like you were just watching. Did you ever attend like any of the like VidCons or anything like that? Did you ever?
Yeah, my brother and I went to, I think, 3 VidCons. We went 2013, 14, and 15.
Very cool. Very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube was the only reason we don't fight, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was gonna say like because at least for you, that's within California. It wouldn't be too far to travel.
Right, yeah, I was staying with my aunt, and then we go to Disneyland.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, do you have a film or project from back then that you're most proud of?
Probably, yeah. I think for different reasons. I think back then I'm proud of Project 3, which was the web series that made. And I think the reason I'm proud of it is because it was definitely ambitious for a group of right out of uni people to like dive into this, like, trying to pull off this like web series with 4 parts and an hour's worth of story and all of these things. Like, it definitely felt, it felt like quite an accomplishment considering where we were in our sort of broader development as creative people, and so I'm sort of proud of the ambition of it. I made a short film with co-directed and co-written with my dear friend Sammy Paul, which was called The Fleeting Little Life of Peter Wright, which sort of tackled a much like darker subject, but sort of with like sort of still a comedic touch. And I think what was cool to this day, like there are sort of people who will send messages about how that particular film spoke to them, that particular short film spoke to them. So I definitely think, like, from a creative perspective, I think that's one that I look back on and feel quite proud of from that era. But yeah, I think it's funny, right? Like any creative person knows that, we're always going to back at work and a little bit cringe, right? Like, yeah. Like, because you're always like, oh no, I can do so much better now. You move on. But what's nice about that era now is there's almost this like funny thing of like, once it's 10 years ago, you feel so removed from it that you can almost appreciate it again. You can go like, oh, I see what we were going for.
Yeah, 10 years is a good amount of time to look back and reflect a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I was hoping, if it's okay with you, maybe we could break down some of your works, and I was hoping maybe you could tell me about what inspired it, and possibly like what the process was like writing and filming, if that's cool.
Sure. I hope my memory doesn't fail me.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, right. So let's throw it all the way back to 2013. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about twists and reflective in perspective.
Sure. Yeah, so what went into writing it, and what was it like making that?
Yeah.
I know that twists, what was fun was Jack and I, we certainly had other sketch comedians who we quite liked to watch. We liked Julian Smith's videos. We liked these folks called Britannic. And we were obviously inspired by our friends too, like Tom Scott. I think centrally we just found the idea of, what if the game of a sketch was that there's a new twist every couple of seconds, and then because that forced us to think about like what are the famous twists from movies, like, oh, it was they were dead the whole time, oh, right. It was a dream, and that we sort of tried to figure out like, okay, that feels like a fun hook for a comedy sketch, and that one was filmed very sort of, like very minimalistically. Like it would have been, I think we would have had our DP, which would have been Hayden Hillier-Smith at the time. And it was just kind of the three of us going around, getting that little shot of Jack in front of the gravestone, getting the, because we wanted it to feel big, even though, it was certainly accomplished with just kind of like the three of us kind of piecing it together as we went. I think that's deep down what it came down to. I think we just found that idea of what if there was a new twist every couple of seconds and you can never quite tell where the thing is going? I think that sort of so fundamentally made us laugh, and then, you know, we started filling in all the details from there. Like, I know, like, the gotcha and all of that stuff was, like, later, you know, because we didn't know which way it was going to go. A fun fact about that sketch is it's, I could send it to you if you're curious, but, like, it's, there's like some kind of Indian YouTube channel somewhere that have basically redone it in animation.
Okay.
Like it's the exact same sketch, and you can tell it's the same thing, but it's like, you know, it's spoken in like a completely different, and it's an animation. And it was like very weird. It was like watching this thing going like, oh, interesting, okay. And it's got, by the way, so much more viewership than the original.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, we're in the wrong continent, you know?
You know, that's kind of a twist in and of itself. What if you didn't actually write that?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the story of twists. Reflected in Perspective was like probably just a lot more. It's actually quite funny because that one did quite well considering for the time. Like it sort of managed to, like, you know, compared to the kind of viewership I was getting on like your average sketch, I remember that one for some reason struck a chord with people. I do know, you know, like at the time, yeah, you know, you're like a 20-something going through a first really major breakup that sucks, and so and then I guess it's just sort of turned into pouring it into well, how can I articulate this thing through a kind of half sketch, half short film? Because I think I was drawn to that idea of, you know, at the time, you know, what's the difference between like vlogging, which was set up as like I'm talking to you from my bedroom, and but obviously people talking straight to the camera, sort of monologuing or soliloquying or whatever we want to call it, like that obviously did exist in film, right? Like, you know, you could look to like early Woody Allen films, or you could look to, you know, like people kind of acknowledging the camera,
right?
Sort of, you know,
like a Ferris Bueller moment.
Yeah, exactly. Bueller example, exactly. And then sort of realizing that we could probably walk a funny line where it's like, yes, it's a vlog, I'm talking to you, but also I'm half in a scene, you know? It just became this like funny opportunity. It was a very similar process where I think, you know, Hayden shot that for me, and it would basically be walking around, grabbing those little moments, like those little gags. Like, so for instance, the Miller, the pub I mentioned earlier, that scene where, like, I have my like fantasy about like what it would be like to like tell your ex that, like, you know, to reject them. And like that was filmed at that pub, you know, and just it gives a good sense actually of what it was like socially, because you would just ask a whole bunch of people who also did YouTube stuff, and they were just game to be in it and be the crowd who were like applauding, and, you know what I mean? It didn't even require that much like traditional production. It's not like I had to set up like a complicated shoot. Right. Everybody's kind of trying to make stuff, so you just have this like very willing community of people who are like, oh, you're shooting a thing, yeah, great, do you want to do? Like, I remember it being sort of more like that, but then obviously, you know, I knew where I wanted to piece it in. Gotcha. In the overall story. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the story of those two. I hope I answered that somewhat satisfactorily. But again, it's funny because I'm trying to remember, like, what was I thinking 10 years ago?
What did I say? I remember thinking that Reflective in Perspective was like the like peak, deepest, like most honest thing to ever happen. And I'm so curious, how do you feel about it 10 years later? Does the message that you were trying to convey still hold true for you 10 years later?
Parts of it, for sure, yeah. I mean, I think the thing that's sort of always weird creatively with time is that, you know, you can tell when at least the expression is honest, I think, you know? like there's stuff I made that I made because I don't know, I had to make something or I was paid to make something. You know, whereas I think I can still see parts of that video and go like, oh, okay, that's what I'm feeling going through at the time, and I think I resonate with it differently now. But the parts of it that I still like, with even with distance, is that sort of notion that when you're going through something difficult, I think I've always had this like ability to like zoom outside of myself. And so I've always kind of known, like, if I'm struggling with something emotionally, like, I know time, you know, like, even 10 years from now, whatever, cosmically, this might not be forever, this might not be, this, in the grand scheme of things, this maybe doesn't matter, but going through the process of losing somebody you cared about, or breaking up, or, you know, like, that it doesn't matter that cosmically it's not, it's like right now it hurts and it's like sort of important that I think that part of me, like I think I still find that part of the message, you know, that's in there, like, still resonates with me for sure. But you know, there's at the same time, you know, like not to overshare or whatever, but I've subsequently been married and divorced, right? Since having made that video. So there is also something quite funny about looking at, you know, my 20s being like, oh, I'm sad about a breakup, and I'm sitting here as a 30-year-old being like, just will you go through the divorce, kid? Like, you know, like there's like a there's a difference, you know, like but that doesn't take away from, you know, that was the experience. Yeah,
right. That's so funny. If only we could go back and like tell our younger selves the funny things that are gonna happen. But anyway,
but I think that's the thing. You have to speak to what you're going through, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I think ultimately, like, there's something. What's nice about the creative journey, you know, and this is like separate from how well something does, but just for oneself, I do find it to be fun. Because when you look back at stuff you've made, it's a time capsule. It's like, this is what you liked. Right. This is what you liked creatively at the time. This is how you thought good visuals worked. But also, this is what you were going through. This is what you poured into it. You know, and if you, as long as you're honest in it the whole time, there's something quite interesting about, like, yeah, it becomes this weird little like, aha, that's me at that age. You know, which you can then look back on at with a different lens. You know.
Yeah, that's such a cool way to think about it. So you've got some other skits, Telekinetic Girlfriend and We've All Been There. Both of those are pretty short, but they're really funny. I was just wondering, do you find it easier or harder to convey a story in a short amount of time as opposed to a full-length film?
Honestly, both present their challenges. I think, like, the story kind of has to dictate what the form takes. Like, there are stories that are worth exploring over the course of a film, or for that matter, a TV show, you know? Like, sometimes a story is better suited to be told over a long period of time. And then other times a story is better told as a short. I think shorts are deceptively hard, though. It's actually funny that we treat them as like the training ground for features, because I would argue making a truly great short, that it's magic when it really works. But in the case of those sketches, yeah, I think those. I remember finding those fun to write for different reasons. Telekinetic Girlfriend was actually a sponsored video because it was promoting the Blu-ray release of the Carrie remake, the one that Chloe Grace Moretz.
Oh, okay, that's so funny.
Yeah, so and I guess the hook was, you know, like okay, what if we take some like weird silly take on loosely girlfriend with superpowers, like with telekinetic power. Like, that was, you know, it wasn't much deeper than that, but, you know, like, that's a good example of, like, you know, me, 20-something guy being asked, hey, what can you do that could promote, that your audience would want to see, that could promote, you know, this, like, DVD that we're releasing? And then I'm like, well, I guess I could make this, you know, like, it's like, you know, like, because I think that was what was always funny about being asked to do that stuff. You had to kind of think about what your audience would maybe want to see, you know? But it was a fun sketch to make for sure. Like I remember the outtakes of that one are very fun from back in the day because I remember that like just how much we had to crack up trying to make that ending work and all of that. And then We've All Been There was fun because it was like obviously Jack and I have worked together for many times, but we also love our friend Dom Farrow who used to inspire us with a lot of his sketches that he made when he was much younger. Like we were all watching each other's stuff, and so to do one where all three of us were in it was fun. We hadn't and that was a similar one where it's like I think I just found that game funny because I sometimes think of almost less like a story, but I think sketches have their own little like sketch logic. Like it's not to say that the principles of storytelling don't apply to sketches, because they do. You have to it has to escalate and there has to be some kind of climax.
Sure.
It's all still, but I almost thought of it more as like a game where it's like, okay, is it a funny hook to go like, oh, we all relate to having gone through that feeling, but then you take that and make it progressively more absurd.
Yeah, no, that one was really funny. One time I slashed someone's tires because they broke up with me. But we've all been there.
yeah, totally normal, healthy behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely relatable.
I think back to the beginning of the question, I think I honestly don't think I have a clean answer to that. I think sketches and longer form stories, they present their own challenges. Like something I really enjoyed, I recently made a short film again, having made my first feature. And I would say what was nice was having painted on a bigger canvas, it was nice to then try and apply it again to like less screen time. But you're always learning. The thing more and more, the longer I do this, the more I sort of just appreciate that you're always learning the same lessons every time. Like it's always the same thing. Like, okay, beginning, middle, end, act 1, 2, 3, like everything, it, but you sort of learn it with more depth, and you get sort of more underneath what makes something compelling, what makes something work, and so.
I'm super curious, really quick, to pick your brain about I'm So Busy. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what your message was for that one, because I interpreted it a very specific way, and I just want to know first what your answer is, and then I'll tell you what I thought, and I'm just curious if it lines up.
What were the combos? Like, it's funny because I might be bringing a slight twist on that same one back sometime soon.
Okay.
But I think at the time, because I came up with that one together with my composer Alex Arnson, and he and I think we chuckled quite a lot at like people who like to wear the mantra of busy. Like there are people who are just genuinely busy, right?
Right.
But they tend to not make it like their identity. They're not so...
I gotcha. Okay.
up there with it. But there are some... So we found it quite funny to like slightly parody like sort of obnoxious busyness.
I see. Okay.
Somebody who's just kind of like, no, I couldn't. I'm just so busy. Like I couldn't possibly have time for you.
Just
like,
so busy.
Yeah, exactly. Like this person does not want to hang out with you. Is really what one should interpret from it.
I gotcha. Okay, mine was like kind of similar. I was wondering if it was a social anxiety anthem, because I find that I frequently want to make plans, and then as soon as the plans come around where it's like an hour before, I'm like, I'm just so busy. I think I'm gonna have to cancel.
yeah, fair enough. No, agreed. And I think it's funny because I think what's fun about I'm So Busy as like for instance this next one we're doing, which kind of it's just a slightly newer version of it, but we're going for a whole different take there altogether. Because I think what's funny is like as we just had in this conversation, it's funny that there doesn't have to be one interpretation, like that's what's always such a joy. It's like because it is a funny thing, right? People get so like it evokes something, I think, like the concept, because everyone relates to either feeling too busy or not. Like what I always found interesting about that sketch was people either relate more to the busy character or they relate more to the person asking
that's getting blown off.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that depends on just where you happen to be at, you know?
Right. Sorry to all of my friends that I've ever canceled on because I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned to me you're working on some projects currently. Are you allowed to talk about those?
Yes. No, I don't have anything that's...
Sweet. Okay, tell me about your projects.
Yeah, I mean, I've got... The biggest one is that hopefully in the next month or so, I will finally be able to, like, put out my my first feature, which we made about 2 years ago now. We shot November 2021. And we are currently in the process of getting it ready so that it can, be available to stream and rent. And
ooh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, so then, and I think sort of that's the main thing. And then underneath that, I'm going to be releasing various, like, sort of sketches, songs, putting stuff out that is kind of just meant to, like, just so that I'm kind of in around again. Because I sort of recognize I've not been around, like so it ranges. It's a whole bunch of stuff. One of them that I'm quite looking forward to. I'm currently in the process of prepping it with a DP and stuff. But I made this musical project called "What Have We Done?"
Yes, yeah.
Many years ago, and it will have been 10 years exactly.
Right,
10
right.
years.
Do you feel like you predicted the future with that?
Some of it. Yeah, and so I think as you've seen it, you can probably then appreciate what the hook here on this one is. It's not as elaborate. It's much more like, it's basically like, but the joke is 10 years later things have gotten worse.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that. It's that same hook, except now it's like a metal song.
I love it.
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of the thinking. It's like I want to start putting stuff out again that I've either creatively been sitting on for a while, or I'm using as an excuse to to start just to start kind of reminding people that I exist again, so that they can hopefully then also check out the feature.
I'm very excited about your feature. How does it feel for you knowing all the steps that you've taken to like get to this point and now be at a point where you're about to release it? How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I think the thing that I wouldn't what's funny is that there are so many steps along the way. Like, there's the moment you realize that you're making the feature, then there's the moment that you wrap and you're like, oh my god, we did it, and then there's the moment that you finish the edit, and then there's the first time you screen it to friends and family, then there's the world premiere. Like, there's so many, like, it's over such a long period of time that you don't really get one moment where you go,
I
like,
gotcha. Okay.
where you get to be like, I did it. Like,
you get like a series of moments.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I think what I'm excited about in it is it will be exciting to know we completed the whole loop. Like, once it's out to people, the story's kind of like, maybe there will be other things like, it gets picked up here or there by some streamer or something. But the point is, once it's out to the public, it's like, we did it.
You've done it.
So I'm looking forward to being able to truly say, saw it all the way through.
Gotcha. You could take a breath now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
But obviously, the film itself, much like what I was just talking about reflecting on one's work, it's weird to be like, now we are releasing something that I made 2 years ago. Like, all my directing choices are from 2 years ago.
Oh.
but to the audience, it's like, here's a new thing.
Right,
So
right.
Something quite, weirdly going through this, and it's obviously not remotely on the same level, but it gave me an appreciation for imagining actors on the press tour for a movie.
Right.
That when they're talking about, when we were on set shooting Dune, it was like this, and like, but
You're
those
like,
memories... Those memories are like old for them. That's like years prior that they, like, you know what I mean? Like, they have to like talk about it like it's a new thing, but like that they did that a long time ago. Like, Zendaya shot Dune a while back, but But now
Right.
she's on the press tour for it. You know,
Now
like,
they're doing all the red carpets.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I gained like a new like understanding or like appreciation for that. I think I was like, oh wow, you know.
I get it. Yeah, that's so cool. How does working on a production for a musical project differ from that of a regular project for you?
Yeah, pros and cons. It's actually another project. One of the reasons I have this ridiculous mustache is also for a project. This is not my new look.
I wasn't gonna ask about it, but since you brought it up.
But that's for another music
Okay.
short film type thing where I'm playing a sort of mustache.
The dedication, you actually grew it.
Yeah, I know, and it's funny though because I'm shooting it over multiple days over a different period of time, and I'm going to wind up having to regrow it because I'm about to go back to the UK, and my girlfriend was like, I'm not into it. I was like, nah, I'm gonna have to shave it and regrow it.
Oh man.
You know, got the commitment. But yeah, a musical project. What's fun is that in theory, if you've got the song kind of complete, it's nice not having to think about the sound, basically. Like, you get to go and shoot strictly thinking what would be a nice video. And also you have this source of something creative that then can inspire the rest of the creative work. You can go, ooh, like this, when I listen to this, it makes me feel this way, so what do I want to accomplish to visually complement that or contrast with it? Or so it's nice in a way. It actually gives you something you're servicing as a director. But then the thing that makes musicals more broadly, you know, what I'm hoping will be my second feature is hopefully going to be a musical, like a feature film musical. And what I will say is tricky though is every decision you make in the music now impacts the script, which then impacts the song. You know, and it gave me an appreciation for why it takes just so much longer to make a musical project, because there's already so many things in filmmaking where it feels like you're plugging a hole and then a new leak
I get
happens.
it.
And then music is just one more set of things that complicate your life.
Yeah.
So you know, it is both challenging but also rewarding. I will say that as somebody who, it's not my music, you know, my dad is a musician and sort of, you know, raised up with lots of guitars in the house and that kind of thing. But I was always more in the film camp, but I've been around music, I would say. And it certainly is it's an amazing art form. Like, if you can figure out how to express yourself through music as well as through film, it's joy, because it gives you just one more way to, you know, try and put something out that you then control or have some influence over into, you know, it's one more paintbrush, let's put it like that, you know, one more thing that you can contribute to the overall picture. Yeah, long-winded answer, but that's what I would say about musicals.
No, that's super cool. I did one video once where I didn't even write music. It was just, I took a song and I just put video clips of me and a friend with the song, and just editing that took way too long. I was like, man, this is so much work.
Yeah. No, it's true. And actually, speaking of that, sort of that 10 years later, what have we done, revisiting, the video is going to be about 3.5 minutes long, but it's kind of, you know, we're trying to talk about how overwhelming the internet is and the algorithms and all, you know, how all of that stuff. And yeah, to do that visually, to your point, it's it's giving me a headache already, trying to think oh god, what can visually capture this moment and, you know, keep it snappy and all that. So to your point, I fully relate. It is tricky. It takes time.
Definitely. Okay, so you mentioned VidCon. So 10 years ago, you invited me to watch one of your panels with Charlie McDonnell, and we very briefly got to chat about filmmaking, and you gave me some advice. I was like 15, so I'm like, I can't imagine I had many good questions. However, I did some digging, and I found a photo, and if I may, I would love to share this ancient photo with you really quick. Do you see these babies?
Oh, wow, yeah. So young. Look at us.
Yeah, no, this is an old
look at
photo.
Us. We go way back.
You could tell by the plaid shorts on both of us that this photo is from 2013.
Yeah. Very cool. That was the Intermix panel, or what was it?
I think so. Yeah, it was because they played one of your short films, and then they did like a little chat after. I could not tell you what it was about.
Yeah.
But I know I thought it was interesting at the time.
Yeah, I'm curious. Was that the panel I was on with? Was this the one with Yulin Kwang, and other people, or
quite possibly? It had Charlie McDonnell in it.
Yeah,
that's cool. All I remember. Yeah. But they showed a few short films, actually, I think.
Yeah, very fun. No, well, there we go. Look at that. Thank you for sharing. That's quite a blast from the past.
Yeah, thank you for continuing to inspire me 10 years later and letting me pick your brain again today about projects from 10 years ago. Last question. I was wondering, do you have any advice for other filmmakers or storytellers out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because a lot of advice that sounds generic is still true. Like, for instance, one I keep coming back to is, just like creative people, artists, just make art. Meaning you have to just figure out how to keep doing it, like whether that's on a big scale or a small scale, because the truth is, like, whether your work gets validated by external sources, whether you win some kind of competition you apply to, or it comes in the form of money and you get to go on a bigger platform, a lot of that you don't control. Frustratingly,
yeah.
Like I've been very fortunate at, having had that brief moment of kind of, some more eyeballs on me in those early days of YouTube stuff. But as we talked about in the beginning of this conversation, it certainly wasn't I didn't realize that could happen when I started doing it, I got lucky, and then when I was when I was uploading a bit more frequently, I happened to land in the right crowd, which happened to bring a certain viewership. But I've also seen that viewership decrease when I decided to move to the States and pursue a more traditional film path. So, the truth is, you don't sort of control a lot of the external stuff, but what you do control is your craft. What do you want to say? What do you want to express? And you just kind of have to figure out how you can, in a way that's sustainable, keep chipping away at that. So that's always, I always come back to, if you make 100 things, your 100th thing will probably be better than your first thing, because that is, at least for me, I'm dyslexic, and I remember sort of as a kid, it was one of those things, I could read about stuff, and it would obviously be challenging because, growing up dyslexic, it was reading was not my favorite way to learn.
Yeah.
So I had to dive really deep into just learn by doing, which also, by the way, means you bump your head constantly all the time. You're just making mistakes and going, oh, I guess not that, or and you're relearning it every time. But film, and I think all creative work, all art, period, a lot of it is just what's your tolerance for being able to not be good at it in pursuit of being better eventually. It's because every time it's I have this great idea for a thing, and then you make it and you look, and you, it's not.
You're well, this isn't what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. I got this much stronger thing up here in my head.
I swear it's good. I promise.
Yeah, but then you have to just kind of figure out, how do I push through that and keep doing it to eventually close the gap between what I see in my head and what I'm able to put in front of you, whether that's something you've written, whether that's something you filmed, whether that's photography, whether that's music, I think those are still my would be my go-to pieces of advice. I also think, especially today, it's interesting, right? Because you really just have to. That's why I often use the word sustainable. I think you have to keep coming back to, like, how do I do it in a way, that I'm still, making sure I'm taking care of myself, that I'm not throwing everything into it. Because also we just have a very loud world now,
Yeah.
And also like with the algorithms and stuff, quite frankly, the things that get seen aren't always good, right?
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to kind of keep coming back to center and going like, okay, what do I want to put out, and what do I want to express? You have to kind of keep staying in that pocket within reason. But that's probably what I would say. Waffly answer, but that's
No. I think that's great advice. No, I can relate to making a ton of really bad things and then like one good thing, and I'm like, okay, but look at this one. Look at the good one.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's the like, and also I think that's almost a little bit to what we were talking about earlier. That's what's nice is like if your career is your career and or just your craft, because again I find it important not to necessarily equate the two, but working away at one's craft, what's fun is if you're doing it right, of course I want you to see the most recent thing I made, because the thing I made a year ago is not as good as what I can do now, right? Like as long as you sense that you're progressing, then you're good, and that's the journey,
I love it. Well, again, I can't thank you enough. This was so fun to catch up and learn about your new projects. I'm super excited for the feature film. Send me a link whenever it's out so I can stream it. Would love to catch up with you again every now and then if that's cool, and I will link your socials and everything in the description so everyone could check out the old and the new.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for reaching out. Thank you for taking the time to include me on your lovely podcast.
Oh yeah, I was so excited. I was like, you'll never guess who I get to interview. 15-year-old Kayla is very excited.
Yeah. Who knew? Here we are. Like you said, now we've got this. Now we'll have this screen recording, and then over time we'll just be able to.
10 years later, I'll hit you up.
We'll do
it again.
When we're very old, we'll have this weird journey of like checking in.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I hope you have a great day. I'll give you the rest of your day back. Thank you so much.
Of course. Cheers.
All right. Bye. I'll talk to you later. Bye. That's all for today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be linking all of Tim's socials in the description below. Please be sure to go and check out all of his stuff. It's really amazing. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend, and be sure to send me a text or a DM if you're interested in buying some of our Morning Brew stickers. Be sure to tune in next week. I'm going to be having another new friend on the podcast, and we are going to be talking about the most insane, stupid road trip ever that we took a couple weeks ago, and it's gonna be really funny. Apparently there's parts of the story that I have not even heard yet. So until then, enjoy the eclipse, and I hope you'll tune in next week.